Добрый вечер, дорогие друзья. Добрый вечер. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Gorsky Wednesday program. Добро пожаловать в культурно-образовательный центр Beit Juhuro. У нас сегодня в гостях очень важный гость Rabbi Yakov Daniarov, выпускник Ешивы Торова Даат, originally from Samarkand, изначально Самарканда, профессиональный софер, мусмах. Он получил смеху от Раби Белский, выдающийся раввин, и он нам сегодня расскажет. He will share with us everything about the mezuza. If you have any questions, you can ask him, because he deals with, he wrote probably a few thousand.
Yeah, a lot. I don't know.
A lot of mezuzot throughout his life, and he really knows everything, maybe a lot about this topic. So he's going to share with us a lot of interesting information tonight. Tonight's shiur is dedicated for Rufuah Shlema. Please, thank you very much.
Okay, good evening to everybody. Say thank you to Rabbi Yakov for having me over to speak to you guys. I just want to speak about a couple of things. When it comes to buying anything related to an holy object, an holy item, whether it's a sofer Torah, whether it's tefilin, whether it's mezuza, whether it's anything alike, that whenever we approach these areas of buying, we need to take serious precaution. Just like when we're going into a store and we want to buy anything else that we need. For example, you want to buy kosher food, you need to know where is good and where is reliable and what's not good and what's not reliable. When you want to go buy a car, you look into the car. When you buy a house, you want to look into the house. When you're buying a cell phone, you want to look into the cell phone, and so on. Anything in life that we buy, we want to know about it first before we buy it. And the Gemara, in Eruvin Daf Yud Gimel, it says over here that Rav Meir, he met Rabbi Ishmael. And Rabbi Ishmael asked him, what do you do for parnasa? What do you do for a living? He told him, I'm a sofer. He told him, you need to be very, very careful, that whatever you do is the work of heaven. It's a very holy work. He says, if you're missing one letter, or you have an extra letter, you're destroying the whole entire world. That was his words. The Chamim define as missing a letter or an extra letter, something which is not kosher, as destroying the world, which seems like a very intense type of a statement to say. So when it comes to a sofer, there are thousands of halachot, laws that a person should know. And there is a lot to know of what goes on in the industry, what goes on in the sofer world, whether it comes to the sofrim, or whether it comes to the cloth, the parchment they use, or whether it comes to the writing style and the writing that they have, and everything that's involved in writing, whether it comes to buying the boxes, whether it comes to where the straps came from, where the boxes came from. You know, they caught a mezuza factory about a couple of years ago. There was in Israel a mezuzah factory printing mezuzahs, thousands of them. Wow. So somebody that, might not know, somebody's not educated, might just buy anything when there's a lot of people that there is to be careful from on the market. So as an introduction, we want to know what's kosher. The sofer himself, the first thing has to be kosher. The sofer himself has to be kosher. It's not enough that what he gives you looks normal. When we say the sofer needs to be kosher, it says that a sofer needs to have more yirat shamayim, more fear of God, than a shochet. Why? Because a shochet, what does a shochet have to do? He comes to dash shechita. One time he shechs the animal. The person eats the animal. It's kosher. It's good. If not, he makes one avera. By a pair of tefillin, for example, if a person wants to put on, besides the fact that if he puts on the tefillin every day, he makes a bracha levatala, which is 2 Yisrei Doraita. Saying a bracha for no reason is 2 Yisrei Doraita. That's 2 biblical prohibitions, and he forfeits 8 mitzvot that he could do a day. And not only that, it says that a person who doesn't put on tefillin, this statement is for somebody who doesn't put on tefillin purposely, is that he's going to be dust in olam haba. That'll be his shir chas v'shalom in olam haba. That's how severe the carefulness that a person should take in regards to putting on his tefillin. That's only the aspect of it of what could happen if not like that. We said over here that if a person is listing a letter or adding a letter, he's destroying the world. The Ramchal says something very fascinating. The Ramchal says that when a person is writing, the amount, the actual effect that this mezuzah or tefillin or sefer Torah will have depends on the sofer, depends on the kedusha, depends on what level the sofer is holding on. For example, the best example to be given is sometimes you may see a very nice mezuzah, but the spiritualness behind the mezuzah is so poor that it almost has like no strength to it. You do the mitzvah, but the actual koach, the strength of the mezuzah is very weak. What do I mean by that? For example, you find sometimes people have cars. They have a Porsche body and they have a Toyota engine. It's sort of the same thing. What you see on the outside is not necessarily what's defining what's behind the scenes and what you're looking at. So now, what we're going to discuss the sofer a little bit. What prerequisites does the sofer have to have? One, they say that a sofer has to have a tremendous amount of yirat shamayim. It has to be very God-fearing. Why? Is because it's very easy to make something not kosher. Very, very easy to make something not kosher. There are so many halachot involved in writing that first of all the sofer himself has to be very knowledgeable, very educated in this field, and he has to have a lot of patience, and he has to be willing to take big losses at times. Sometimes a person can be writing a whole entire tefillin, which could take about a week to write, around a week to write, a pair of tefillin, and at the end of everything he finds out that he's missing one letter. That means that he worked for 1 week for no reason.
And you cannot just erase it and insert
we'll get into that. So if he's missing or adding one letter, something like that, you cannot fix. Why? It's because there's a halakha that's called kesidran. We're going to discuss the halachot of writing soon. So sofrim have to be able to take such laws. And unfortunately, in the market that we have today with sofrim, a lot of sofrim in Israel especially become sofrim because the financial stance in Israel is not so easy. And a sofer is a very quick and easy job that they could find. What does that mean? Is that they could go and learn how to write, and they could sit home and write all day, and they can sell it on the market for very cheap because they write very quickly. They're not looking to... And a lot of this goes out onto the market, and it flows into the market, and if it's kosher or not, we're not sure. There's girl sofrim today, there's Arab sofrim today, there's sofrim that break Shabbos, there's sofrim that buy klav, today you could find any type of a sofer you want. There's a sofer, he's not religious at all, he already sold 15 sifrei Torah. So when you're approaching safrut, you're approaching an area where what you see, you have to be able to identify where it came from. If you can't identify where it came from, you're putting yourself in a position where you're not fulfilling the mitzvah at all. When a sofer wants to buy a piece of skin, so now in the skin itself we have a couple of laws. One of the main laws is we need it to be lishma. Lishma means that when you take the actual animal, and the animal that we use the skin from needs to be a kosher animal, not necessarily does it have to be shechted, as long as it comes from a species which is kosher. For example, as long as it's from cows, you can even take it from Arabs or from Indians or from wherever it is, as long as it's from cows. Why we need cow skin? Cow is a kosher animal. Now, there is a preference, api Kabbalah, and even api halacha, in a deeper sense, that it's better to have one that's shechted, or even better, they say, that it's better to use the baby animal that's inside the mother's stomach when they shech the mother. Why? It's because such an animal never came out into the world yet and has no sense of sin to her. No sense of sin to the animal. And since it has no sense of sin to the animal, it's a fresh animal which just came from the mother's stomach and never came out, such a skin is considered to be a very high regard for a sofer to write on. So now you have various different types of skins that you could take. And besides the fact that the skin from the babies in the mother's stomach are very soft, they're also more mehudar. They're on the skin, and in writing, they're the most highest standard of skin. So now, that's one area of skin. Another type of when they take the skin, they have to process it. So there's two ways of processing it. There's machine processing and there's hand processing. So when it comes to machine processing, they comes into a problem that is considered lishma. When you make cloth, when I want to take a piece of skin and I want to use it for a sefer Torah, for tefilin, for mezuza, for megillah, whatever it might be, when I initially put it in there, which it has to be done by a Jew, when I initially put it in there, I have to say l'shem kedushat sefer Torah, and put it in if I want to use it for a sefer Torah. If I say l'shem kedushat sefer Torah, I can use it for a sefer Torah or anything below that, like tefilin, mezuza, and megillah, and so on. We need to say if I said for a higher level of kedusha, which is sefer Torah, I can use it for anything lower. But if I say lower level of kedusha, if I say I want to use it for mezuzah and I put it in, you cannot use it for tefillin or sefer Torah. Today what they do is, they do a couple of different things. they put it in with a condition that if I want to use it for Sefer Torah, tefilin, mezuza, or even anything else, let it be for everything. So whether that works is a debate, but we come to a conclusion that it works. Is it the best? It's not the best. The best is to do it for the specific item that you need, or second best is just to do it for Sefer Torah without any conditions, and that's permissible to be used across. Everybody agrees that, pretty much everybody agrees that, and this is the acceptable way to do it today, and the better companies. Now, we said when you put it in, you have to do it lishma. What lishma means is that you have to say, L'shem Kiddushat Sefer Torah, and you have to put every single skin inside the actual chemicals that you're putting it in. The chemicals that they put it in is a big facility. Back in the day, everybody used to have these facilities. People used to have to make their own skin. Today, it became into a multi-million-dollar industry of making skin. There are companies that make thousands of skins that are being sold on a weekly basis, and these skins that they receive, they get for pennies because they get them from all over the world. All these places where they kill animals, they're doing them a favor if you take the skin. A lot of these places, they don't need it. They're looking to sell meat. So they're looking to sell the skins for very cheap, and they make a deal with this company, whatever it might be, and they sell them all the skin for cheap. Now, making the skin is a very big process. They have to put it into the actual seed, it's called, into these chemicals, and they have to say lishma when they put it in, and it takes about a week or 2 weeks for it to all the hair to come off and for everything to fully be cleaned. Then they take it out, and then they have to process it. They have to take off all the skin, all the hair manually, and then after that they have to stretch it, they have to form it, and then they have to let it dry. And then after they let it dry, they cut it into the shape that they want, and then they make the lines.
So the machine is okay or not okay?
So when it comes to the machine, so there's two ways to actually do it. When they first put it in, they throw all the skins inside, right, and then they press the button. They say L'shem Kiddushat tefilin, or L'shem Kiddushat Sefer Torah, and they press the button, and the machine starts to do everything on its own. So here comes a big question. Is that considered lishma? It's the same argument that comes with the matzahs on Pesach, the handmade matzahs or the machine-made matzahs. Is that considered lishma or not? Lishma needs to be done through a person. Is the person pressing a button considered lishma or not? Is that considered as if he was the one that activated it and put it in? So here is a very big debate. Some that say that it's not kosher, some that say it's kosher b'diavad, borderline, some that say it's kosher, and some that say it's even the best, it's fine, it's considered as if he did it. But it's still in dispute. There's no final conclusion here because everybody has different opinions. Exactly, it's considered lishma, and this is a machloket, a dispute that we've been having for a long time, even with the matzot. And then the second.
I'm sorry, but does it take in consideration that at that time that they didn't have machines to make them, so they were making it by hand. Now we live in different centuries, so we have machines, we have a lot of different ways.
When we have laws, laws do not get compromised based on technology. If the Torah tells you that it has to be done by man and it has to be written by man, I cannot take a machine and press a button and have the machine write a mezuza for me. The Torah says uchtaftam, it has to be written by man. The Torah says it has to be done lishma, it needs to be put in with a certain intention. If it doesn't have that intention, it's puzzle. We need to say, if you have a worker who put in a whole bunch of skin and you forgot to say L'shem Kedushat Sefer Torah, it's puzzle. The skin is not kosher. Who will ever know? They also, who did they hire to work in all these factories? A lot of these factories are not in Israel also. They hire, so a lot of times, random people. There was a Rav one time who went to visit one of these factories, and he heard a loud rock and roll music. When he went inside, he saw the workers there. He didn't know who's the animal, who's the worker. He couldn't tell. He said he was shocked to see what's going on in such a mifal. So you don't know so why? Because there are people, in general, there are people that want to do the right thing, they go into it and do the right thing, but then there's a lot of people that say, hey look, he's making money, I'll do the same thing, and they don't really necessarily care to do the right thing, they just want to make the money. So you have to be able to discern, but we'll get into that. And then there is handmade skin, which they put everything, so the machine skin has problems because the machine turns off and then they have to return it on, and the machine takes the skin in and out. So basically, even if you want to tell me initially it was done by him and he pressed the button, but being that the machine takes everything in and out and it stops and it returns on the next day, it's considered like a new cycle. So in a way, a lot of poskim don't like that, but the accepted way today is that it's accepted and it's kosher. They have no problems with it, and the majority of sofrim today write on it because it's much softer than handmade skin, and they like it. Now, when it comes to handmade skin, which is depends where you buy from, usually almost double the price. right? Because everything is done completely by hand. There's no machines involved. Everything is done by hand. Putting it in, rolling the barrel, checking it, mixing it, stirring it. So the process is much more because it consists of humans working the whole time. And a lot of these companies who do have handmade are usually people that are a little bit on a higher level of spirituality. They're a little bit more Yirei Shemayim. They usually have better hachsherim, much better supervision. They have much higher standards, and the standards are being looked after all the time. So it's much safer to actually buy that. For you and for the sofer itself, it's better. But there are very good companies that have machine made, but you have to be able to know where and what. Not all of them are good, and not all of them are bad. So that's when it comes to the skin. I'm just going in the basics. Now, when it comes to the actual, we said before, the sofer himself, and I'll tell you a little story I read over here. It said a sofer one time, he says over here, this is also a sofer who wrote this book, he said, so one sofer brought him a mezuza, he told him brought him, and he said he needed the mezuza to be double checked. When a sofer writes something, he needs to give it to another sofer to be double checked, besides the fact that he has to check it, and he has to get a computer checked. Because we say, since he writes it, if you want him to check it, his money connected here, so we're scared that he might let something go. So we say give it to somebody else to check it. And that's the standard, accepted way of doing things today. So what happens is, he went to the sofer came to him and he told him, can you please check the mezuzah, double check it, it was Erev Shabbat, I need it as soon as possible. So he said he found a certain letter there that had a problem, and according to a certain rabbi in today, which is Rabbi Yakov Zatzal who lived, he said this mezuzah is not kosher. He said, but according to Rav Vosner, he seems to be a little bit more lenient that it's fine. He told him, okay, today we'll go to Rav Vosner, is it kosher or not? Give it back to me, I want to sell it. And he's selling it for $95. When you're asking $95 for mezuzah, it's on the assumption that it was done api halacha, and it's kosher without any problems or any doubts or any complications. You don't want to be concerned that maybe now, is it kosher, is it not kosher? It has to be that you know for sure it's kosher when you're spending that amount of money. And the sofer himself has to take big precaution that when he's selling something for such a price, it needs to meet a certain standard, a certain criteria. If it doesn't reach that standard, it doesn't reach that criteria, it could be stealing on the sofer's end. So he has to make sure to take that in consideration. Will anybody who buys it ever know? Nobody will ever know. Because you don't have Ruach HaKodesh. You buy it, you put it in the store. I'll tell you stories later on with the story. Right? Now, when you have the sofer himself writing. So now the sofer that's writing, the Ramchal says, like we mentioned before, that according to the Kiddush of the sofer, that's the Kiddush of the actual writing. It says that a person's mezuzah in his house protects a person from various things. So now when it comes to the writing, there's different styles of writing. There's the Sephardic way of writing, there's the Ashkenazic way of writing, and in the Hasidim, they have the Ashkenazic way of writing, but they change a couple of letters according to Kabbalah based on the Arizal. The Sephardic way of writing is traced back about 1,000 years. We have Sefer Torahs from the Ran, from Rishonim. We have Sefer Torahs that we have from 1,000 years from all the rabbis and so on, from the Maran Beit Yosef's rabbi's rabbi. We have a lot of Sefer Torah. So it's pretty clear to us what the letter is supposed to look like. The Ashkenazi Sefer Torah is brought down in the Tur, in the Beit Yosef, and the Rishonim, like the rabbis from 1,000 years ago, exactly how the letters are supposed to be. So there are differences. The Arizal already came to us and he told us, Eilu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. Both the letters are both holy and they both have their sources in the upper world. What he means by that is that when Hashem created the world with 22 letters of the alphabet. So every single letter of the alphabet is comprised of different letters. All those compromisations relate to another world in heaven, which when a sofer is writing them, he's able to connect these letters to their root in heaven, and he's able to bring down that shefa and that kedusha down into the world. So now when the sofer is writing, he has to make sure that the letters that he's writing are going to fit in to the letters that he's supposed to be writing. Meaning to say, when he writes an aleph, it's supposed to have the details of when the halacha said an aleph is supposed to have. When he's writing a beis and a gimel and so on and so forth, an aleph can become puzzle more than 20 ways. A beis can become puzzle more than 20 ways. Every letter can become puzzle very easily and very quickly. When a sofer is writing, the first thing he has to do when he writes is say, Hareini kotev, l'shem kedushat, mezuzat, tefilin, Torah, whatever it is that he's writing. Let's go on to mezuza, for example. When a sofer is writing...
I'm very sorry, before you continue with this, I just have to understand what you just said. the difference between Sephardim, Ashkenazi, and Chabad is only the difference of the letters, how they write them, and it affects how it connects it to the
Upper world and
upper
connects
world.
it. Okay.
So Sephardic is a certain way, so it connects it to the root of a Sephardic, and
Right.
Ashkenazi is to the Ashkenazi, and
Right.
Chabad is to the.
On a deeper sense, yeah.
Okay. So mine tefilin was written in Chabad, right? So I took it to check. It was time, whatever, so I took it to check. And it's telling me that it's fine for Sephardim to have it in Chabad because it's similar to Sephardim than Ashkenazi. It's some kind of letters are too close to each other.
Yeah, I know.
Not like Ashkenazi.
Okay, so let me explain to you what he means. By the Ashkenaz, by the Chabad, and by the Sephardim, the letters are completely different. What he meant to tell you is that when you write the Parsha, I was going to get into this, is that the Parshas have to have certain spacings, which is called Parshat Petucha and Parshat Satuma. Whenever you see in the Sefer Torah, you ever look in a Chumash, sometimes you see a Samach out of nowhere, you see a Pei out of nowhere, you see a Samach out of nowhere. What that's telling you is the amount of spacing that needs to be put between one Parsha and the next Parsha, which is something that a sofer has to be very careful in, because otherwise it won't be kosher if it doesn't have that spacing which is required. So now there's a machloket between the Rambam and the Rosh how to make those spacings. So we generally try to make it like both. If we can't make it like both, we stick to the Rambam. Now when it comes to tefillin, there's 4 parshas. There is Kadesh, right? The first parsha is Kadesh, Kadesh Yikol Bechor, and the second parsha is Vayakev Echad, then you have Shema Yisrael, then Vayam Shemoah. So when it comes to the first parsha, at the end you have to leave the spacings of 3 words. When it comes to Vayakev Echad, at the end you have to leave a spacing of 3 words. When it comes to parsha of Shema, you don't leave spacings anywhere, not in the beginning, not in the end. When it comes Vayam Shemoah, you don't leave spacings at the end, you have to leave 3 words of spacing in the beginning of the parsha. If you don't leave that 3 words of spacing, what I mean to say is that you have
It's only tefilin shebeyad, right?
both.
Both?
Both.
But the
Plus
head
the
it's
Sefer
all
Torah,
four,
plus the Sefer- we're gonna
that's
make
4
a difference.
separate.
You still
No?
have to make that spacing.
But no, I'm saying Rosh it's 4
For
separate
example,
pieces.
you
no?
see that you have a Sefer Torah here, correct? Why did he stop here and make this spacing? Because the halacha requires him here to leave this space. If he doesn't make this space and he writes it directly and he closes it off and he continues writing here, it's not kosher, it's possible. He has to leave a certain amount of space here. If he doesn't leave that space, it's not kosher. So sometimes he has to stop here and then start the next parsha. Sometimes he does it in the middle. So
Right,
when it's
but
open like this, it's a parsha petucha.
I'm sorry, but that space they leave it is to get to know that's a different
No.
story that starts
No,
or
no, no,
different.
no, 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 no. That's not why they leave it there.
So
That they have to leave either or. There's some that between every parsha, there's already a space that you know is different parshas. There's something called petucha v'satuma. You have to make it the way it's written in the Torah to be petucha v'satuma, and you have to leave that spacing halachic requirement, not because it has to just be a differentiation. So the Ashkenazim, they came. The Sephardim always left 3 words in the beginning of the last parasha, and that's the way we hold. The Ashkenazim came along later on, and they said we want to make a compromise. We don't want to only do like the Rambam, we want to do like the Rosh. They said the 3 words that we leave has to have 9 letters. That's why we leave 3 words. It has to be 9 letters. So let's leave half the 9 letters here, and we'll make half the 9 letters here. And together will be 9 letters. This way you're going to do like the Rambam, and you're also going to do like the Rosh. In short, there's a lot of details to discuss. So Sephardim hold that that's not kosher. Lubavitch, on the other hand, they don't do like the Ashkenazim, they do like the Sephardim. So therefore, for us, Lubavitch shouldn't be kosher for that reason that they leave that space. But in regards to the lettering is not like the Mesorah of the Sephardim. Is it kosher if it's mehudar, meaning to say if it's top quality writing and you have it already, you don't have to switch it if you can't. If you can, it's preferable too. But it's fine to wear it either or. That's what he meant to tell you in regard to the spacing. So now when it comes to the sofer writing, when he writes for example, when he wants to come and write a tefilin, right? He needs to say, "Adini kotev tefilin zu l'shem kedushat tefilin." If he did not say those words when he first started writing his tefillin, the whole tefillin is puzzle. The writing could have been gorgeous. The whole entire tefillin is not kosher. If he's writing the tefillin and it comes to God's name, he needs to say, "Harini kotev shem zeh l'shem kedushat Hashem." He needs to sanctify God's name. If he does not sanctify God's name when he's writing God's name, the whole Sefer Torah is possible, the whole tefilin is possible, and the whole mezuzah is possible. Everything is possible if you do not sanctify God's name. If a person wrote the whole Sefer Torah and he remembers he did not sanctify one of God's names, he doesn't remember which one it was, the whole entire Sefer Torah is possible. Now a sofer has to be willing to take that loss if he doesn't know which one. By Sefer Torah is easier because if you know which one, you could fix it. By tefilin and mezuzah, you cannot go back. It has to be written in order. Meaning to say, if a person finishes the whole tefillin and he's missing a letter, he can't just go back and fix that letter. It has to be written in order. You miss that order, the tefillin is invalid. That's one of the laws, which is something that can happen to anybody, which is something a person should be careful from. This is one of the reasons why we do computer checking. Computer checking checks for that, to missing or miss anything missing or anything extra. Now, there's another law, there's a lot of laws, there's another law which is as follows. If the person is in the middle of writing, his tefillin, his mezuza, whatever it might be, and while he's in the middle of writing, two letters touch. Two letters touch each other. So now, when two letters touch each other, you have to discern whether or not one of the letters don't look like they're supposed to look like anymore. For example, if you have a resh, and you wrote a vav right after, and there's a little line connecting them, a little extra ink. At the end of the day, it's ink.
Would you like a whiteboard?
And it's ink. You have a whiteboard?
I'll try to find it.
You have ink and you have a pen. It could touch, and if it touches, it turns into a resh. It turns into a chet, right? So now, if a sofer is not very well versed in halacha, or if he's in a rush, or if he's not thinking straight, or he just doesn't care, or he doesn't have a test that he took a test by Beis Din that he knows what he's talking about, what will he do? He'll erase that line. He'll make it that the letter resh will become a resh and a vav will become a vav. That's considered chak tochot. That makes everything invalid. It's pasul. When something like that happens and the letters come into a different letter, you have to erase both the letters and you have to rewrite it in order.
So erase both of them.
You have to erase both of them, but you can only erase both of them if you did not write further. If you wrote further, you have to erase everything until that point. But you can only erase everything until that point if there's no God's name that you're going to come to. You can't erase God's name. If you already wrote God's name and you messed up before God's name, nothing to do.
You have to rewrite the whole thing.
So rewrite the whole thing. Yeah, you have to rewrite the whole thing. There are times where it's much easier. When is that? So for example, if a person's writing a tefillin and he made a mistake in the last parsha, say the last parsha I made a mistake, so all he has to do is rewrite that parsha. Why? Because the other three were written before this one. If he made a mistake in the second to last parsha, he needs to rewrite two last ones because the two first ones were written before these two. If he makes a mistake in the first one, he has to rewrite the whole thing. Not unless he could find one parsha which is written before these three, but then he's not going to do that because it's all going to be different writing, and who's going to buy it? Nobody's going to buy it. Even though I've seen people's tefillins like that, which they themselves didn't know about, that somebody just sold it to them like that, which they're very upset about. So that's another halacha. Now, all of this is just halacha me'ikar adin. There is a lot of halachas that when it comes to sofrim, people want to be mahadir. They want to get the best possible item they can get. Why? It's because a tefillin mainly is a very strong bond between us and Hashem. Like we said before, every letter in tefillin is connected to the upper world, and as we are wearing this tefillin, it's connecting our neshama to Hashem, and it's bringing down that divine sustenance to us. The Ramchal says when a person davens in the morning, he puts on his sanit and his tefillin and he davens b'kavanah, that tefillah in the morning gives him that siyata d'shmaya to fulfill his tafkid, his tikkun in this world on that day. It brings him siyata d'shmaya. His siyata d'shmaya and his tzlacha, a lot of it comes from that morning start point. So when a person is putting on tefillin, he's connecting his neshama to Hashem by connecting to the worlds that the tefillin represents to, and thereby bringing all that shefa into him. If he's lacking that, he's lacking all the vitamins and the minerals that he needs on a daily basis for his neshama. So his neshama is really losing out a lot. So when it comes to writing, people want to be always mehader. But now I'm talking about just the basics of halacha. So now when it comes to writing, right, we come to another issue of writing. Say for example, there's differences of opinions. If I'm writing the letter lamed, right, and the lamed is a little too short, there's a dispute. Is it kosher? Is it not kosher? We come to a conclusion that it's kosher, but now since in its debate, it cannot be kosher on a higher level. So automatically, the level of the tefillin or mezuza, whatever it be, will go down to a lower level. Now, That when it comes to writing. So when it comes to writing, there's more laws, a lot more laws that are involved. But those are just the basic laws. Besides the fact that the writing needs to be in shape. Another halacha that we'll just mention real quick is, for example, if a person is writing, and while he's writing, at the end of the mezuza or at the end of the tefilin, if there are words that are situated like going outwards, meaning if the writing is going outwards at a slant,
It's not on the line,
right? Or it's going inwards, it depends. Not on a line could be okay. Or, for example, if you have one word here, one word here, one word here, the whole thing is not kosher. That's considered kikuba. Then you have kizanav, like a tail. One word here, one word here, one word here. Right? Some that say you don't need one word, one letter. If you have one letter out, another letter out, another letter out, the whole thing is not kosher. Now this is a halacha that a lot of sofrim are not familiar with because it's written in a different part of the Shulchan Aruch, which sofrim don't always learn that part. They learn basically the main parts which are Simulamed Bet for what they need. So that's when it comes to the
It's
sofer.
a little hard to comprehend that, a person comes in the morning, puts a tefillin, prays with his heart and soul, and because a guy made a mistake, he's losing the connection. Why?
Why? Okay, so if the guy made a mistake, that's a different discussion. The Chidat says if a person is wearing a tefillin and then he finds out later that it wasn't kosher, he's considered anus. What does anus mean? Just like anything else, that if a person... But when is it considered we didn't know? If a person is careless, why should he be anus? If a person, he took precaution, but it happened, right? But if a person did the best he can, or if a person didn't care, you can't really say that he was an accident, right? He has to take his own precaution. If you go and buy a house, you don't just say, okay, I like the house, let's just go buy it. Or if you want to go buy a car, you don't just say, okay, bring me anything and I'll pay you for it. You look into it. If you don't know about it, what do? You ask somebody that knows. You bring somebody that knows. You take precaution, right? So if you take precaution, that's one thing. But if you don't take precaution and you bought something, you can't say it's his fault, it's your fault. You should have took precaution.
Okay, so what if you took the guy, as I said, some of them are not, either not religious.
We're going to get to that. We're going to get to
You
that.
took to a guy, he checks, okay.
We're going to get to that. Let me tell you. Let me tell you something. Really, I have a lot to speak. We speak about this topic for 2-3 hours. But let me just tell you something.
We could do part 2 next week.
So I can tell you something. So when it comes to, I have a story. I'll tell you a little bit story. Really, it's really sidetracked. I really want to teach you guys more about what you should know as opposed to stories. There's a story with the sofer, which is a famous sofer. I don't want to mention his name. And many times people came to me with tefillins that they bought from him, which were not kosher. I went to a Beit Din. I asked what to do. They said that you should go to the sofer and tell him. So I went to him and I told him to be more careful. He apologized. He said to be more careful. And then again, something else was bought from him, and I saw it, and the same problem again.
You say you want to do the basics?
No. And then the same problem again. So I didn't know what to do. So when people ask me, I just say it's better to stay away from him. Might go better to somebody else. Or if somebody bought from him, I say it's better to check it. Just double check it. And as a matter of fact, I know somebody, a neighbor of mine who bought from him, and he told me he bought from him. I said you should double check it. And I double checked it, and I was right again that again it was not good. Why? Not because he's a bad person, because he's not responsible enough to deal with this type of field. When you're dealing in the field of safrut, you need to be very responsible, you need to be very patient, and you can't be careless. If you're going to be careless, you're more or less going to give something that's not proper. One time I was in a store, I was in a Judaica store. I don't want to say which Judaica store it is, but a Judaica store knows nothing about safras. Not unless they have a real sofer stam on site, right, and the sofer stam is certified, and he knows what he's doing, and then you could say, okay, they have a certain sofer. But a lot of Judaica stores, they don't have sofer on site. They buy and they resell. Do they know who they're buying from? They're running a business. They buy the cheapest item they can get their hands on, and they're selling it for the most they could sell it for. So whoever they could sucker, they sucker. That's the way it works. Right? So I was standing online one time. It's funny because this story happened to me, and he says it here that it happened to him too. I was standing online one time, and I see two people. They're not so religious. And the guy behind there, I see the way he's describing to him what they're looking at, and he has no idea what he's talking about. I felt bad for them, but then what am I going to say? I can't make the store look bad. Also, it's lashon hara. What am I going to do? Right? So I wasn't sure what to do. I was in a dilemma. So I was hoping that they wouldn't buy what he was showing them because I looked at it and I saw it was very bad. But So they asked him, what's the difference between the more expensive ones and the cheaper ones? He said, according to Jewish law, they're all 100% kosher. They're all the same thing when it comes to kosher. Just the writing, this one is nicer, this is less nice, but they're all good. Rabotai, this is 100% sheker. Why? It's because those mezuzot are b'diavad, those mezuzot are maybe l'chatchila, and the ones that are expensiver, they're most likely mehudar, because when somebody's selling something more expensive, generally people look into it more, and the sofer has to be more careful, and it has to be more representable, so it's much harder to get away. When you're selling something cheap, nobody really looks at it. At $35, wrap it up, give it to me, let me put it on the wall, and move on with life. So those type of guys who want to write a $35 mezuza, which say general expense for a sofer is around $15. And an expense of a sofer is around $15 to write a mezuzah, and it takes them about a day to write a mezuzah. So if you want to tell me that the sofer wrote a mezuzah, if the store is selling it for $35, that means they need to buy it for $20. So that means the guy who got it, he probably got the cheapest cloth. He wrote it like you're writing a letter to somebody. He wrote it as fast as he can. It was double checked. It's somewhat kosher. Get it out on the market.
It's just his office labor. Whole day of labor, writing it down.
These people that write very fast and cheap, they write it in about an hour and a half.
But the ones who take their time.
The ones that take their time are very meticulous and they want to do something right. That's why they charge more. But I'll get into that a little bit later. So what happens is, he actually happened to have a little bit more guts than me. I didn't say anything. The people walked out of the store, either or. But he actually walked up to the guy afterwards and told him, I don't understand why you lied to them. This is clearly b'diavad and this is clearly mehudar.
Could you explain the terms? Not that everybody
So b'diavad is 4 levels of kosher. B'diavad is the lowest level of kosher where it's like, it's just passing. It's preferable not to have it, but it's just passing. It's better not to buy it. Right? Then you have regular kosher, which is, it's okay, it's standard. Not everybody would say it's kosher. It would be a big dispute. But you can be lenient. L'chatchila is it's kosher, pi halacha, 100%, no problem. But it's not mehudar. Mehudar means that you did it, that it should be kosher according to the majority, and almost pretty much according to all of the rabbanim, all the shulchan, everything. You're doing everything that the halacha says without any contradiction. Meaning to say, if you're writing a mezuza, and while you're writing 2 letters touch, but there's no difference, there's nothing changed in the letters. So now, according to a lot of poskim, if you continue writing, it's not kosher. La halacha we paskin it is kosher, but you can't say it's mehudar. Will anybody ever know? Probably not. So you have to be careful not to lie.
You can't say it's the finest. Yeah.
Right? So you have to sell it at a lower quality. Are you going to sell it at a lower quality is the question. Right? So now the store, he told the guy, I see that this is b'diavad and this is mehudar. Why'd you lie to them? He said, my boss told me in this store we don't use the word b'diavad. This is what he told him.
But you could have not saying the guy to kill his pigeon, but you could have recommended to the guys, this is a better one to buy if you want to offend or whatever it is the issue. But
So I waited there to see what happened. They walked out of the store. For whatever reason I don't know, they walked out of the store. But when I first went to the window, I was curious to see what they were selling. I looked and I saw, and I was like to my wife, I feel bad whoever buys these mezuzahs. I saw what they were selling, but then again, it's a business, right? You don't buy meat in an electronical store.
It's not right what they sell.
It's not right. Yeah.
It's not right what they sell. But
So-
this is not just the business.
yeah.
So let me tell you
For a
something.
person like me to go into the store that I have no idea what I'm buying.
I want to explain something to you. If the guy knows nothing about a mezuzah or about a tefilin, and he's running a Judaica shop, and he knows that a part of the business is to have a kosher mezuzah or tefilin, he calls up, he says, give me the best kosher mezuzah, the cheapest kosher mezuzah you have. He buys from A to Z, it's up to you to know what you're buying. The owner himself doesn't know what it is.
What is up to me? Let's say I know few stores, Eichler's and a couple more stores, right? Should I trust Eichler's or not?
You should trust yourself. This is why I'm
What do you
here.
mean I have to trust myself? I know 2 + 2 is 4.
I'm telling you, you should
But I
trust
don't know
yourself.
mezuza kosher or not kosher. But they sell it as a kosher.
When
and
you
I pay same American money.
when you want to go and you want to lease a car, if you don't know about the car, you ask somebody.
No.
Are you going to trust the dealer? Or you look into it, you find out.
If I go to lease, I know what is my budget.
But you look into it. You want to make sure
I'm
that it's
looking for my budget. I'm not buying Mercedes, I'm buying
So
Whatever I buy.
So part of buying any religious article in life is that you yourself has to be educated. Not only in this area, one day B'ezrat Hashem will give a whole class about kashrut and about everything else that goes on in the kashrut market as well. The bottom line is the consumer needs to be educated. If you're not going to be educated, you can buy anything and you won't know what you're buying.
Absolutely. Besides that, the consumer needs to be educated. The owner of the store, if he knows that he's purchasing, he knows that he's purchasing from.
I'll tell you again, an owner of a store is not a sofer. He's running a business.
Like he should.
He's not a rabbi. He's not a
He should
sofer.
get a sofer into his store and recheck everything when he's
Okay, let's say meat store. He's running a business, right? Just a drop milk.
A meat store is a different area. Because a meat store you cannot sell meat.
I'm a buyer, whatever I buy.
A meat store.
For Judaica store or for meat store?
I'm explaining something to you. By a meat store, in order for you to sell meat, you need to require Hashgacha. If you don't have Hashgacha, nobody buy from you. There there's milk is the least of all problems. You won't have that problem in meat store.
Okay, another
In any case scenario, okay, good. There's a lot of questions that you can ask, but that's the bottom line of how it works. There are people that are running a business, and there are people that want to do the right thing, and there are people that just don't care. That's the realistics of the world. You're telling me why is he like that? Why is he like this? Ask him. I don't know. Why is he like that? Right? You have a guy who wants to do the right thing, and you have another guy who sees that he's making money. He wants to do it for the money. So now you're going to tell him, hello. Why are you ripping me off? You think he cares?
Let's say for meat store we have mashgiach, right? Let's put mashgiach for Judaica store.
A Judaica store that sells mezuzot or tefilin has no business selling mezuzot or tefilin. It's because the majority of the time, if they don't have a sofer, you could end up buying anything. That's the realistics of it. You have to make sure the Judaica store. My purpose here is to educate the consumer. What they sell on the market, they sell anything you want on the market. They're not looking to be big rabbis or to look into it. They sell whatever sells. Like you said, they told you it's kosher, you trust him. He called the sofer, it goes to the sofer, he also trusted him. He doesn't know, just like you didn't know. So here we're trying to teach the consumer to be able to know what to buy and what to ask for. So I really only spoke about 10% of what I wanted to speak about. But let's just go on a little bit more. I marked here a whole bunch of things that I wanted to say.
Do you want to show us something?
Okay, so you guys want to see something. So the bottom line is, let me just tell you what you need to know.
Picture worth 1,000 words.
What you need to know when you go buy something. What you need to know when you go buy something is, the first thing you need to know is who's the sofer, who wrote it. There are a lot of laws in telling who wrote it. Tell him, do you know he bought it? Does he have a license? Is he licensed? So tell him, can I show it to my rabbi? Before you want to buy something, always show it to your rabbi. The smartest thing to do. If you don't know, show it to your rabbi, because your rabbi will know. If he doesn't know, he'll show it to somebody you trust. Because if you're just buying anything in the market, they'll sell you anything. It's a business for them. You can't assume that everybody in the whole entire world is a tzaddik. It doesn't work like that. You have to be able to if you go into a store, for example, there's a guy, I can tell you so many stories, that there's a guy, I'll just tell you one story, who claims to be a rabbi. He calls himself Rabbi Steinberg. He's a reform rabbi. He sells glad kosher Bet Yosef meat. It's a tablet K on it. Tablet K. One of the guys that worked there asked him, why do you work there? It's treif. It's key food meat. It's treif. It's not even kosher. Tells me, what do I care? It's his problem. People have this mentality. You're going to see him, he's with a beard. He's a big tzaddik. So what am I trying to teach you? That you have to, when you're approaching anything that you're buying, you have to have some sort of knowledge. You have to have some sort of idea of what you're taking. Otherwise, you won't know what you're taking. If you don't know what you're taking, they're going to give you anything. You tell them $35. Think to yourself logically. Let's think logically. Right? It takes 1 year, right? Here's a Sefer Torah. Right? This is one part of a Sefer Torah. I take a look at it over here. This is one part of a Sefer Torah. Think about it logically. He has to write 66 of these. It takes about a year to write. It takes about 1 year to write, right? It takes 1 year to write. It costs $5,000 just for the skin.
Really?
It costs an additional $1,000 to pay a second sofer to check it. Yes. animal skin, real animal skin. And then it costs you another $650 to get a computer checked. And then you gotta buy real animal veins for stitching. It's not regular, they use real animal veins. That also has to be done for the purpose of safrut, which has to be lan lishma. They use that for stitching. So it means you have 1 year of work and around $6,000 to $7,000 of an expense. So if you're buying something for $25,000, you have to think to yourself, who's going to work for $18,000 a year? It has to be logical to you. So you have to get a little bit precautious, right? If you find something that's very cheap, there could be something wrong. You have to look into it. You have to be able to discern also what's good and what's not good. For example, I'm looking at the Sefer Torah. The Sefer Torah is beautiful. Every single letter here is perfect in accordance to Jewish law, right? If you have just one letter here that's not good, or two letters here that are touching, out of a Sefer Torah which is very big, the whole thing is not kosher.
So you cannot erase like you did in
In the Sefer Torah you could. Sefer Torah doesn't have to be in order. There are plenty of times that I went up to Sefer Torah in shul, and I saw that two letters were touching. Some places took them down, some places didn't want to listen because they couldn't accept the fact that there was something wrong with the Sefer Torah.
But you think b'diavad it's okay or not?
If it's touching, no, they have to separate it. But what's the problem here? Is that a lot of people that check, besides the fact that you have to know what you're doing, you have to have good eyes. If you don't have good eyes, you won't be able to see. Why? There are many times that I've double checked over other people that checked, and I still found that it was not kosher because the places were touching, crowns were missing. If crowns are missing, it's also a very big problem. But people that check, not always are they patient enough. Also, for example, if you're giving somebody a tefilin to check, he charges you, say, $100, right? A regular sofer who checks, he doesn't close the boxes, generally. Boxing closing is a different work, which is a different field. Generally, to pay somebody wholesale to close the boxes is around $50. To check a tefillin properly takes about an hour and a half. You got to go back to the guy who closes the boxes twice. You got to deal with the customer, and you got to get paid. So all he's making is $50, and he's driving himself crazy. And he has to take the responsibility of checking it. It's like, and it's a lot of work that entails it. For example, here's a pitum aktoret. This is I wrote this for somebody. I finished it recently, and they put it up in shul. They said it's a segula to read. This is the Lam Natzeh. The Rambam says segula to read for Hatzlacha.
This doesn't have to be written.
This has absolutely no laws.
It's just decorations.
Right.
The menorah that's written, what is that?
That menorah is the menorah David HaMelech, when he used to go out to war, he had the menorah in his shield. It was a segula for protection. So they say whoever reads this menorah, the Ramban says, whoever reads this menorah in Klav, he'll have a lot of hatzlacha. It's a segula for hatzlacha. And the Mekubalim say whoever reads the pitum aktoret on skin is a segula to become rich. That's why people do it. Right? So it's segulot api Kabbalah of what to do and what not to do. Some people like it. But to leave all the segulot aside. Right? When it comes to buying, let's just come to conclusion. There's really a lot that we have to take into consideration. Straps, for example. They were recently last year caught with straps, fake straps, on the market, flooded in the market, half plastic, half leather. They just split it to half. And they weren't kosher. A sofer called me from Queens. He tells me, what should I do? I sold the straps to everybody. I told him, you have to go ahead and you have to call up everybody and you have to give them different straps. And that's what happened. A lot of people that sold it might not want to take that loss. There was a sofer who used to write on Shabbat. He wasn't religious. Years later, he became religious after he sold thousands of tefillin. And everything he sold which was not kosher. He wasn't religious. He was dressed up like he was religious, but he wasn't religious. He went to Rabbi Yashiv. Rabbi Yashiv told him that you have to go ahead and make it known to everybody that you were this and you did this and you did teshuvah, and everybody that bought from you should come to you and return it, and you have to rewrite it for them. Why? It's because everybody's wearing something which is not kosher. So this is something that depends on the sofer's Yirat Shamayim. Rav Avad Yosef one time tested one of the biggest soferim in Israel. He gave him a test, and he realized that he forgot a certain halacha. It's brought down in one of the Sepharim. He forgot to say L'Shem Kedushat Tefilin before he wrote. He forgot the halacha. So that means everything that he wrote, and who knows, the past 20 years, and people are waiting online for him, thousands of tefillins are not kosher. Who could ever know? It happens. People are human. People can forget. People can make mistakes. Anything is possible. it's impossible to go ahead and say, this is what it is. Writing entails a lot of detail, a lot of responsibility. You have to be able to look at it, take it to a rabbi. Somebody called me last week. He wanted to buy a pair of tefillin. I gave him a beautiful pair of tefillin. He took it. He told me he wants to give it to a sofer of his choice to double check it. Smart. No problem. I gave it to him. Go get it double checked all you want. Why? He wants to make sure it's up to his standard. Why should he take my word for it? I'm looking to make money. Then again, it's a business for me. You're right, I might take a lot of precaution, but when there's money involved, you always need to take an extra precaution. You yourself, as a consumer, need to be careful. There's a lot of items, not only when it comes to sofer, there's a lot of items on the market altogether that you need to take precaution for, right? You could find in anything, in electronics. 2 pair of headphones look exactly alike. One is $1, one is $10. You think, what's the difference? It's the same thing. You buy the one for $1, it hurts your ears, it's such bad quality. But this is something that you can discern. If you're putting on a pair of tefillin that's cheap, you can discern what would happen. You don't have Ruach HaKodesh, you don't know what happened here, but you have to take into consideration that the boxes take about a year to make. It's pure animal skin. If there's one little tiny hole in the box, which they covered up with a little paint, the whole tefillin is not kosher, you will never know, which is the most common problem today, which is flooded in the market, which there are tons of boxes companies that, again, there are people that do it for the right reason, there are people that do it just because there's money in it. Then you have the same...
They're doing with money involved, they're being seen, so it's not, they lying, not only are they lying to themselves, they're lying to the Jewish person that actually walking into even Judaica store. Me as a...
No, very good, that's why God created hell. What do you think God created hell for? Created hell for these type of people. Right? That's besides the point. Again, like I'm trying to tell you, you cannot go out into the market and assume that everybody's very righteous. Today's day and age, the consumer needs to be educated in every single area in life.
I understand, but out of your words, I understand. So if I bought a device, I took it to somebody to check. He checked it, that means I have to recheck him to go to somebody else. Because now I'm not going to trust this one, unless I get 2 or 3 opinions now.
A Judaica store and a sofer is 2 different things. When I said the reason why the Judaica stores have problems, I made it very clear is because they don't have a sofer. If they have a sofer that's licensed by the Beit Din, then you can rely that he knows what he's doing. Then you have what to rely on. Because when the Beit Din wants to give you, when the sofer wants to come to a Beit Din, you take a 3-hour written test and then you have a verbal test. They make sure you know what you're doing. Then they want to see your writing, and then they want rabbis to speak about you, to see who you are and what you're all about. After all that, they say, okay, you're certified. So if you walk into a place and you see that a guy has a certification, you can be assured that the Beit Din is taking responsibility for it. If you go into a store and there's nothing there except a business, there's nobody there to take responsibility for what they're selling. If you're buying something which requires a lot of responsibility and nobody's responsible for it, that automatically telling you that you're putting yourself in a bad situation. Right? If you go to an electronics store and they have a whole section where they sell meat and nobody's taking responsibility for the meat could say black kosher, it could say whatever it wants. Is there anybody taking responsibility for it? No. So how can you buy it? If the guy himself who's selling it knows nothing about what he's selling and he's running a business, you're putting yourself in a bad situation. If you're coming to a sofer, you're going to your rabbi and he's checking this, says it's fine, that's okay. But if you're just going around and you're buying in a random place, which has nobody taking responsibility, it's a showcase in the middle of nowhere, you're buying a product like you're buying any other product. That's just the realistic side. Right? In any case scenario, we have to know when we want to buy something, when we want to do something, you have to look at it and make sure that the sofer is certified, the certification is valid. There's 2 certifications, there's one for writing and one for checking. Just because the certification says he knows how to write doesn't mean he knows how to check. When it comes to checking, you need to know a lot more laws than when it comes to writing. I mean, a lot more laws. Right? Every letter could become not kosher in 20, 30 different ways, which the sofer might not be aware of, because his job is to make sure to write the letter as he learned, to make sure he doesn't make it not kosher, to make sure he knows what he's buying, and that's it. The one who checks it needs to know everything that could go wrong, and everything that he needs to suspect that could go wrong. He needs to check every single crown to make sure every single crown is touching, every single crown is in place, every single crown is there. If the crowns are missing, or the crowns are touching, you get into problems again. Now you have to take into consideration, everything when it comes to safrut is handmade. There are people that need to make the skin, people that need to make the boxes, people need to sit there and write, somebody that needs to double check, that people that need to make the crowns. It's going through a whole row of people that invested in it. So you need to make sure that manufacturing process was right. It doesn't come from any source. That's all I'm trying to point out. Is that when you're buying something, you need to be more responsible. Really, there's a lot really more to speak about it. I have a list of a lot of things I want to speak about. But again, it's going to take hours to speak about it.
What inspired you to start? What inspired you to do this, to start doing this?
I tell you, I used to learn yeshiva full time for a long time. I asked Rav Chaim Kanievsky, I asked him, I want to get into Parnasah, what should I do? He told me, be a sofer. I listened to him, and we started becoming a sofer. And my Rosh Kollel, Rosh Yeshiva Rav Belsky, was one of the Gedolim in America. And while I was learning the Torah on that, I took a test by him. At that point, I was the only sofer in the world that he ever gave a test to. And now there's another one, which is my Chavruta in Yeshiva. Only two of us, the only one that gave us to go down. So he gave us the test, and he gave us smicha, and this is why we're involved in Safrut. Baruch Hashem, thank God, so far I haven't had any complaints. But,
how many sofers of your level in New York?
there are a lot of good sofrim. There are really a lot of good sofrim. There are a lot of bad sofrim. I've dealt with sofrim, I've took sofrim to Beis Din before. I took sofrim to court. Because they did things not up halacha, they thought I wouldn't be able to catch him. I caught him, I took it to Beis Din. Rabbinical court, of course.
What was
I one time bought 2 pairs of tefillin, $3,000, $1,500 each pair. Every hidden, gorgeous, looked like it was printed or so beautiful. I gave it to a guy to put together. This guy was supposed to be very recommended. When he closed it, I didn't like the way he closed it. I saw something that was a little funny in the paint job. I went to my Rosh Kollel, I told him, I'm a Strauss. I want you to check this tefillin. He opened it up, he saw that it didn't fit all the way in. The guy smashed it in and he glued it in. According to Rabbi, it was pursued 100%. Besides the fact that he glued it in, they couldn't even get it out. They had to break it. And that he was so crooked that he didn't even want to pay me. He was giving me bounce checks for a whole entire year, to the point where I told him, it's okay, keep it. Right? So you find that somebody could look like a very big tzaddik, and when it comes to money, you gotta be careful. You have to make sure that somebody is honest. One of the conditions that it says for sofer is that it says they have to be sonei batza. Sonei batza means there cannot be money-hungry people. The other, not too long ago, I fixed somebody's tefillin. It was a big headache for me, and he wanted to pay me, and I should have charged him. But I told myself, just to fulfill what Chazal said, I won't charge him. Even though I wanted to. It was a big headache for me to fix the tefillin.
Why did you want to charge him again?
I fixed his tefillin.
Okay, so
It's closed and stitching. So I had to fix it, so I had to charge him, which is normal. But I wanted to be kind what Chazal said. Sometimes just leave it alone. Right? Just to kill this nature of wanting money from it. You have to be able to take the sacrifices. There are sofer like that. But I gave another story. I gave a sofer one time. He had a good reputation. I told him, put crowns on his way. He made the tefillin possible, I put him in a crown. He told me, okay, I'll pay you. I said, okay, no problem, pay me. He told me, I don't have money now, give me a little time. I said, okay, I'll give you a little time. A year passed. I didn't bother him. He told me, look, I don't really have to waste money. Can I just give you $100? I said, okay, just give me $100. 5 years passed. Nothing doing. Why? This is the way it is. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right? The world that we live in, you have to take precautions. Even in kashrut. One day I'll give a shir about kashrut, about what goes on in the kashrut industry. You'll be astounded how much precaution you have to take. It's because, like I told you before, you can't just assume everybody's righteous because they look righteous. You have to look into the person. You have to look into what he's giving you. You have to take into consideration. You need to be responsible. You need to be educated. Almost every client that comes to me, I educate him what he's buying, and I show him what he's buying. He's more than welcome to take anything he wants and choose whoever he wants. It's because it's important for the person to know what he's buying, not only because not to buy something kosher, but to appreciate what he's buying as well. You're buying think about it. If you're paying, say, $1,000 for a pair of tefillin, tefillin's going to last you for 20 years. You're paying 2 cents a day for that pair of tefillin. 2 cents a day. And you're becoming 8 mitzvot d'oraita, and you're being mekayim a mitzvah that Hashem told you to do. You're doing a mitzvah that Hashem wanted you to do. You go to a restaurant, you go on vacation, you can spend a lot. It's over. There's no olam haba for that. But for a mitzvah that connects you to Hashem every single day, it will give you ultimately a tremendous amount of olam haba. 2 cents a day. I had somebody call me one time. I usually don't sell anything cheap. I had somebody call me one time, and he told me he's looking for tefillin. And I already saw that he didn't want to spend a lot of money. And I saw he's the type of person that if I'm going to let him go, he's going to buy something probably not kosher. So I told him, look, I'll give you something for $500. I told him, give you something for $500. Cost price, kosher lechatchila. I'll give it to you as a favor. Take it. His father's screaming in the background, tell him $200. Tell him $200. $200. No. I was willing not to make anything. I'm willing to do you a favor. You want to take a bet? I told him, look, I don't think I'm for you. I think you should go somewhere else. So my mother was there. She told me she was time to go to a flea market. My point being is, I can't blame them. They have no idea of the amount of effort that goes into something that you're ready. Even if the sofer charges $1,000 for per tefillin, that's 1 week of work. And there's also the investments that he's supposed to make, and the responsibility that he takes, and the amount of dealings that he has to deal with by the time it happens. At most, how much is a sofer going to make a year? $40,000? $50,000 if he's busy?
But besides one, the sofer is a single mitzvah it is. The will to come.
You read the Gemara. And if you're missing or lacking a letter, you destroy the whole entire world.
You as a sofer,
This, how much reward a person gets, only God knows. But I can tell you that Rav Chaim Vital, which is our Rizal student, one of the biggest Kabbalists, his father was a sofer. Rav Yosef Karo, who wrote the Shulchan Aruch, came up to him and said, the Malach, Rav Yosef Karo used to learn with an angel. Angel. The angel used to learn with Rav Yosef Karo, the one who wrote the Shulchan Aruch. He used to learn with him on a daily basis. He said, the angel told me that half of the world exists and the merit that your father writes the tefillin that he writes. It says that a person who is careful to write what he's supposed to write gets a tremendous amount of olam haba, and he doesn't go to hell.
It's a pretty good deal.
It's a good bit, because why? It entails a lot of responsibility. It's a very... When Rav Moshe Feinstein, I'll finish off with this. When Rav Moshe Feinstein wanted to buy a pair of tefillin Rabbeinu Tam, he said, I don't know a sofer to buy from. Not enough sofer in the world? What do you mean I don't know a sofer to buy from? He claimed that in his generation, most of everything was possible. The Ben Ish Chai writes in the Sefer that in his city, there are over 30,000 tefillins that were possible. Why? Because the people that were doing them, they didn't have enough knowledge to be able to do it the right way. And a lot of times it could become postal without you even realizing. If you're not very well understood in the laws, if you learned the laws one time 20 years ago, and ever since then you're just writing, and you're not taking into consideration to relearn it, you're prone to make mistakes. You have to be more responsible. So as a consumer, when you want to buy something, if you don't know it, tell your rabbi to check it. Tell your rabbi, give it to you, give it to the rabbi, or take a picture, show them, whatever it might be. You always have to be responsible when you're approaching these areas, because if you're just buying anything, you could end up with this thing. Which I see as a sofer all the time. All the time, people buy random stuff, they bring it. A lot of times, I don't even want to check it. I say, I'm sorry, I don't want to check it, I'll send it to somebody. Why? Because this will take me 5 hours to check. Every 2 seconds, I'm going to have to look into it. Every 2 seconds, I have to take a picture and show it to the rabbi, is it not? Then, sometimes, if you're not sure if the letter's kosher or not, you have to ask a child who only knows Aleph Beis. What letter is this? Because the child doesn't know how to figure it out. He says what he sees. How many times do I have to go to the child, go to my next door neighbor, what's this, what's this, what's this? Meaning to say, if you have a letter, and the letter maybe lost what it looks like. For example, if you have a vav. A vav is supposed to be this thick, the leg, the head, and it has to be this thick, the leg. Sometimes the leg is a little short, so you're not sure, is it a vav or is it a yud? It's very hard to discern. A child can't figure out what word it is. He tells you what he sees. So you show it to a child, tells you vav or yud. So if you have a cheap writing, when they're writing so quickly, you can have 20, 30 questions like this in a pair of tefillin. That means that you need to go check the whole thing, mark down all these places, go to the child, ask the child on every single question, then you need to come back, and then you need to fix everything, and then you need to go to that guy and he's going to bargain because you're charging him $100. So when I see stuff like this, I say go to somebody else. I send him to somebody else. The guy already doesn't like me. I mean, these customers I sent him.
So basically,
deal with it.
if I charge $100, $150, It's questionable. Is that do I understand you
To
correctly?
buy the tefillin?
To check.
No, $100 is the standard price. Some people that do everything, they charge less. Meaning they close the boxes themselves, they charge less. But when somebody's a little too cheap, you should be cautious because you're going to get what you paid for. If you want somebody to pay meticulously, the guy's not going to spend 3 hours, right, if he's making $40. It's not realistic for him. So you need to just make sure that you're giving it to a proper person. You ask if there's any questions, if there's any problem, anything you should be aware of. A lot of times they won't tell you. Many times I found that phones are possible, or every time we don't say why, because if you can fix it and give it back. Why? It's because if you're going to do this puzzle, he's going to say, oh, that rabbi told me to, he's going to go out, he's going to start speaking Lashon Hara about it already. So you have to be smart. Some people are very stupid. They're going to tell somebody something, it's going to make problems for you and for the guy, and it'll make problems everywhere.
Yeah, but the person who bought that not kosher stuff, he brought that to you and you checked and you got that.
Well, if
it's not kosher. Better to tell to that person,
Well,
don't
if
go
it's
to
not
that place
kosher,
anymore.
if it's not kosher and you could fix it, then
You could fix it, but before you fix it, it was not kosher.
so what you do is generally you have to look. Sometimes it's not kosher because it could have been left in the sun. Sometimes it could have been a mistake. Sometimes you see that it's clearly careless. So in such case scenarios, generally you ask where you got this tefillin from, and he tells you, you call the guy, and you talk to him about it. If you see the guy is a fishy type of a guy, then you can tell him. The sofer has to take the responsibility, but you can't give such information to the public. It's very dangerous. In any case scenario, as far as we have to know, if you want to buy something, you have to be educated. If you don't know, you should ask somebody who knows that can guide you to
But
buy
there's
something.
going to be normal competition, you know.
There's always normal competition. In everything you do, there's
This
competition.
is not normal because you're not going to tell him, the person who sell for him mezuza or tefilin is not kosher, right? You're not going to tell him.
Depends. You have to be smart to be able to discern one yes, one no.
Thank you, Rabbi Yakov Daniarov. Thank you very much. Tonight's class was sponsored by Naum Shamilov for Refuah Shlema of Leah Lida Bat Silvia. Thank you very much. Rabbi Hanani ben Akash אומר רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות ישראל לפי זה ירבה להם תורה מצוות שנאמר אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה ויאדיר. You want to say על ישראל?